Good afternoon, folks. This is Bob out at Serenity Hill. I guess it's all okay that my face is in shade. You probably didn't want to see too much of it anyway. At any rate, I've been working pretty diligently on my door for my bathroom. I'm calling it my $2,000 door. I'll be covering that under a separate video, how I construct that. That way people who aren't really interested in the construction stuff can skip that. But at any rate, it's made out of wood that I cut, milled the boards out of logs from a tree a neighbor cut down and gifted to me. Let them dry in my solar kiln and then milled them down, and are using those to make a door, and it's pretty spectacular. I call it my $2,000 door because it uses live edge around the inside, the live edge of the board, instead of cutting everything nice and square. So it's a lot of hand cutting and fitting and the like. I told my wife, I said, if someone were to say, "Oh, that's beautiful, make me one," I'd tell them, "Yeah, I will, for $2,000." And I'd probably still be losing money on it because I got a lot of hours in it. Well, what I'm doing out here today, as much as I can with the wind, is I'm standing in front of what's going to be my garden area. And it's getting that time of year. I'll be starting in a couple days here with starting some things. And what I'm going to do is I don't have a greenhouse, but I've got a solar kiln, and it's got a plastic roof on it. It's to let sunshine in. So I'm going to use that. I'll just knock together a little table to put my seed starts on out of some scrap wood, and then I'll put my seed starts in there to keep them warm, and they'll get plenty of sun, and it'll be overhead sun, so they should grow straight, and that'll keep them warm, and I'm not having to deal with them inside and keeping them away with the cat and grow lights and all that good stuff. So that'll be a neat thing. And so what I'm doing today is I'm starting out thinning this out, getting rid of this. And some of the trees are small and some of them are big. And let me show you what I've got tool-wise. Of course, I got my chainsaw, which I just got back from the shop. I've had this. It's a Husqvarna 372 XP. It's been great. I cut down some good sized trees with it. Done a lot of work with it, cut firewood with it. I've used it for cutting most of the logs that are in the house. I say most of the logs because my previous saw, I had a still and the bottom end locked up on it. It was used when I bought it, and I ran it for about 3 years and the bottom end locked up, so I had to get this Husqvarna. And I've really enjoyed the saw, but the other couple weeks ago, when I was out cutting firewood, it died in the middle of a cut, and it would not restart again. And it was the same thing that had done on me once before. The coil went bad. This is the second coil that's gone bad in this saw. I've had it for about, I don't know, 3.5, 4 years now. And this is the second coil that's gone bad in it. So I'm not real crazy about that. But at any rate, I got it back, and it took a little while to get it because the guy who owns our local saw shop decided to sell the business to someone else. So I got caught in that transition between the two, and we had to take a trip to Michigan. My wife's sister passed away, and so we went up there for the funeral, and that took a few days. But you don't begrudge things like that when you take time out to do something for family. That's not something you get upset about. At least I try not to. So the other tool that I'm going to be using, I segued, didn't I, is my Sawzall. Now, I know a lot of people, they like to go out and get a little electric chainsaw, something, or a small chainsaw to use for small stuff. But I found this thing with a 9-inch pruning blade does a great job. I mean, I've taken out stuff that's 6 inches around. Like, For instance, right here, over here, I've got a tree, this tree right here. I'll cut this down with my, probably with my reciprocating saw. And all this little stuff like this, I'll use it. I'll use it. You know, if you use a chainsaw, even if you buy a small electric one, you have to cut it off. You can get away with cutting it off even with the ground, but most of the time you end up cutting it off a little bit above the ground, because that's, you know, you can't get the chainsaw right flush with the ground. And it, you know, I've got this sandy, clay, gravelly stuff here, and you get a chain down in this ground and it'll dull it so fast it won't cut anything, and you'll be constantly sharpening chains. So I found this this pruning blade on the Sawzall. I buy them in a 5-pack, and a 5-pack is they've gone up some, like everything. 5-pack is like $13 or $14, so they're less than $3 a blade, and they're carbide tips, and they're made for cutting wood and pruning, 5 tooth per inch, and the carbide tipped cutting blades. And I can plunge this down into the ground and cut the little stuff off below ground level, and they don't dull. I mean, eventually they'll dull, but not quickly. I mean, I can use one for quite some time before the teeth start wearing down and I decide I need to put a different blade in. But if I do, I'm out $3, $3.50, something like that, so, or less. So it's a great value, and this thing is a lot easier to maneuver. And like I said, then I can plunge the blade down below ground level and cut things off, the small stuff off below ground, so I don't have stobs sticking up to trip over. Which I can guarantee you can have a little stob that's sticking up ½ an inch, and I can guarantee you that thing's going to reach out and grab the toe of your boot. So I'm going to start out, it's pretty windy today, so I don't know if I'll cut down any of the bigger stuff. I really don't like cutting trees down in the wind. A breeze is fine, but we got winds supposed to be getting up around 20-25 miles an hour. Not good for cutting trees. But I can't really, I'm going to do this for a while until the epoxy I poured on my door uprights to fill in some little holes and cracks. Once it dries, why, then I'll be able to work on my door again. So I'm doing this in the meantime. Now there's a couple trees I'm going to be leaving. One of them, believe it or not, this little leaning tree that you see here, I'm going to be leaving it. It doesn't look that great and scraggly. Normally I cut it down, but it's a crabapple tree. And there's a few crab apples on the ground here that fell off of it. And I'm going to keep that crabapple tree, and I'll mulch around it, throw a little nourishment on it, see if I can make it flourish a little bit more. And hopefully with a lot of this other stuff cut out around here, it'll have more nutrition and it'll do a little better. But I'm going to keep that wild crabapple tree because I'm planting some apple trees just on the other side of my fence here. And crabapple is one of the things that will pollinate them. And you know, what the heck? Nature gives you free food from some crab apples, and make some crabapple jelly, you might as well keep it, right? And it kind of hangs out away from the garden area so it won't shade it. All right, well, let me get to work here. Oh, look at that. Got some little wildflowers coming up. You like the flowers, Leo? And these will be some of the first things that the pollinators are going to get when they come around. I don't know what they are. They're really tiny. And of course I got my dandelions. And I don't cut my dandelions down. I let them grow because pollinators like them. Just that quick, and it's down below the ground. All right, well, I think that's about it for today. The wind is kicking up pretty good, and it's to where I need to use my chainsaw to cut some trees down, and it's just a little windier than I like. They're tossing around pretty good up top. You can see I've got all the little trees cleared out in this area here, and I've cut down what, 7 or 8 of the trees, about the size of that one. I've cut down, and what I do is I save the poles up to about where the branches start. I save those because you never know when you might need a pole for something, and you know, if you put them in the ground, they won't last forever, but it's still better than going and buying something when you need something temporary. So I got a good sized brush pile. I'll feed that through my weed chipper and turn that into some wood chips, and continue on when we get a little less wind. And the area that I'm going to be clearing out goes to that post right back there. I don't know if you can make it out from the trees or not. And then we'll go up to, let's see, tree right about where my finger is pointing. I'll go to that tree way up there. This tree right here will be cut down. So the area that I'm talking about clearing out here, well, you can hear the wind whipping around. You see it whipping the trees. That's why I'm not cutting more stuff down. It's just, I don't like cutting trees down when they're swaying like that. It's just not a good day. Even if they aren't real big trees, it's still not a good thing to do. So anyways, this will give me an area that's about 30 feet by 45 feet to get started out with this year for a garden. I might cut out a few more trees up there to extend it. And as you can see here, the time of day, how much sun we've got here. It's got a southern exposure, kind of and with these other trees I'm cutting down, has some eastern exposure, so it'll get a good amount of sun, and hopefully it'll be a good garden area. Once I get all this stuff cleared out here, I'll be going down to Mountain Milling Company down in Mountain Grove, Arkansas, or Mountain Home, Arkansas rather, and they have they specialize in cedar lumber, and that's a place I've gone and bought all my tongue and groove red cedar for in the house, well, about 75% of it. And they have a thing they call bargain bundles, because they also do dimensional wood, and some of the stuff that's like number 2 grade or has some defects in it or whatever, they'll bundle some of that up. And so you can get these bundles. They'll have some 2x2 and 3x3 and 1x material, even some 2x material in there, and a pretty reasonable price. So I'll buy 3 or 4 of those bargain bundles and use those to make some raised beds out of red cedar. Yeah, give you an idea of why I'm calling it a day on cutting trees down. So we just work around the weather and what we can do. So I think my epoxy has set up good enough on my doorposts. I can go work on that out of the breeze and get some work done on my door, which like I said, I'll be sharing that in another video. Thanks for stopping by. We are making progress, slow but sure, working around the weather and family commitments and things like that. But boy, it's that time of year to get out and get busy. Don't be afraid to get out there and do something you've never done before. You might just find you like it. This is Bob at Serenity Hill. Thanks for stopping by, and we will see you on the next one. Bye now.